Hello tubers, this is Kurt with Edibles and Exotics coming to you from sunny Mesa, Arizona. And today I'm going to do a short little video on my Moringa tree in my front yard. I got 3 growing on my property. They're all seed grown. And for my family, you know, I always harvest the pods. We harvest leaves. We make curry dishes out of them. We use the leaves in soups, stews, whatever. It's just a great seasoning, you know. And the good thing about the fresh leaves are, if you guys are familiar with the dried leaves that are powdered, if you eat too many, they're going to give you the soupy poopies. No nicer way to put it, but that's what's going to happen. So with the fresh leaves, there's a lot of moisture content in them. You don't need a lot of them because they are flavor packed. So little goes a long way. So, you know, if you put it in, you know, anything you're cooking, it's not going to upset your stomach, you know, unless you're allergic to it, but I don't think anyone is. It's got an excellent flavor. Usually with curry dishes, I'll try to get some moringa in there. I'll try to get some turmeric leaf. Yes, you could eat leaves of a turmeric plant, so it's another one. Go to the store, get some roots. They're dirt cheap. Throw them in the ground, let the leaves grow. They like to grow in somewhat shade. That's a totally different video. You can trim the leaves and you could use those. And then also curry leaves. So if you grow a curry leaf, you could use the leaves from that in your curry dishes also. And those 3 ingredients right there are going to make it unbelievable. You guys are going to love it. If you love curry and you make it yourself, or you want to try making it yourself, that's what I would suggest. So anyway, this tree here behind me, it's getting blasted by the sun, let's say. So I planted it here to shade this side of my house, or help shade the side of my house, and some of my more sun-sensitive tropicals that are growing in this little patch here in my front yard. And it's grown quite a bit, but the problem with moringa is it puts out a ton of pods. And when it puts out those pods, it directs all its energy into growing and developing those pods. All right. Over the summer here, if it's a really well-established tree, it shouldn't be an issue. But when it's a young tree, the branches are very thin. And instead of developing those branches into thicker branches, it's going to develop those pods into thicker pods. Your branches are going to hang down. They're going to droop. They could snap. They're not going to grow leaves. Usually, after the pods develop and start drying out, those branches really don't even wake back up, I've noticed, on younger trees. I'm not talking older trees here. So I harvest all these pods, and I've tried giving them away, and I had a hell of a time. I mean, you guys wouldn't believe it. You know, you would think, oh, moringa pods for free. Everyone's going to come and jump on these things and want them. But good luck trying to give them away. Selling them, forget it, you know. I don't know what the deal is, but so these moringa pods, I'm going to show you. I trimmed off, I don't know, probably 100 of these things. And when they're green, you can eat them. I'll put a link down in the description for a video on how to cook them. They're very nutritious. They're very tasty. They absorb whatever you put them in. So if you put them in a curry or, you know, whatever, it's going to absorb the flavor of that sauce that you're cooking them in. But they're very easy to cook. You cut them into about 2-inch sections, and there's a technique. You peel some of the skin off. You cook them for about 10-15 minutes until the guts get kind of soft and juicy. And then when they're done cooking, you cut them in half. So you have a 2-inch tube. You cut it in half lengthwise. So now you got 2 2-inch tubes cut, you know, half tubes, I should say. And basically you eat it like an artichoke leaf. So you would use your upper teeth or lower teeth, whichever way you want to go, to scrape out the guts. And then the skin, you take and you throw it on a plate or whatever on the side of your dish. And you don't eat the skin. You just eat the seeds and the pulp that surrounds the seeds. Kids love it. It's really fun to eat. You know, it's a finger food. A little messy depending on how you cook it, but it's an excellent source of nutrients. If you guys are looking to grow something that you could harvest pods off of, you know, you grow 2 or 3 of these and you can kind of rotate them, and you will have an endless supply. I mean, mine put out pods, edible pods, almost all year round. So depending on which tree is producing, I harvest quite a bit. When the pods are young, okay, when they're kind of like the size of a string bean, you could eat them whole. You don't have to cook them or anything. You can take them right off the tree and eat them. They kind of taste like a spicy string bean. It's an odd flavor, but I like it. My kids like it. My wife likes it. Everyone kind of likes it. You could also eat the flowers. I don't know about when they're open. I mean, you can eat them that way, but when they're little buds, they get clusters of little white flowers, and you can just pick those off and eat them. You just got to make sure there's no bees in them or anything, or ants. But those are also super tasty. You could cook those up, season your food with them. They got a spice to them, a little bit of a bite. They're juicy, soft, flavorful, really good. So moringa, it's considered a superfood. They're starting to grow it all over the world, and they're using it to feed the masses. So, you know, impoverished areas where people just don't have enough food to eat, they're introducing moringa into these villages and stuff like that. And people are eating the pods, they're eating the leaves, they're eating the flowers, they're eating the roots. You could actually dig these trees up and eat the roots. They call it a horseradish tree in some places because the roots taste like horseradish and they're highly nutritious. Okay, I had to get a chair to sit on. It's kind of tough kneeling down. But anyway, so it's a very nutritious tree. It grows mainly, I think it's native to like India, that area. You know, maybe some other little countries over there, but it's more of a subtropical, deserty kind of tree. You know, when it's young, it does need quite a bit of water. So don't get fooled into reading on the internet that this is a drought-tolerant tree, that you're never going to have to water. Once it's established, it's never going to need water. That's BS. All right, it's a subtropical tree. It's native to climates similar to ours, but not exactly ours, okay? So you are going to have to water this tree when it's young pretty much every day, all right? The other problem with moringa is, and this, you have to be very careful when they're young. I've seen a lot of people grow them from seed and kill them this way. They need well-draining soil, okay? They will grow in our clay soil, no problem. But when they are young, they need well-draining soil. If the roots stay too wet too long, they will die, all right? So usually when your tree is, I would say, probably about maybe 8 to 12 inches tall, it starts getting a little bit of bark on the bottom of the trunk. And usually at that point, it's okay with giving it a little more water. I would keep them in very dappled sunlight if you're growing them in containers. All right, so put them on a porch where they get maybe like morning sun. Morning sun is when it's 115 degrees that day. Morning sun is going to be like until 9 in the morning, okay? The rest of the day, full shade. Or if you have them in a spot like underneath a tree or something somewhere in your yard, or underneath some shade cloth where it's getting dappled light all day long, that's totally fine too. They are not trees that you want to grow long-term in a container. They just won't grow. The roots want to spread out, and if it's in a container, they are just going to start twisting and you're going to have problems, okay? The roots like going deep, so if you're going to start it in a container, get a pretty decent sized container. Very well draining soil though. A lot of potting soils do not drain well, so you got to make sure you got good drainage in the bottom of the pot, good draining soil. If you're using a grow bag, that's going to eliminate 99% of that drainage issue. The soil will dry out naturally, all right? You don't want to use too big of a pot, because if the roots aren't in that soil in the pot, that soil is going to stay wet. It's probably going to go anaerobic, and it's probably going to kill your tree. If you're planting them in the ground, heavily amended, use my method, my channel, my method, guys. Follow my method. Dig your hole. It doesn't have to be gigantic. Amend the soil 50-50, composted cow poop and native soil, and then top dress it with mulch, all right? You can build it up on a little mound because it's going to settle. The best time to plant them is early spring, after we have no more danger of frost. And once the temperatures, when the tree is young, once the temperatures get up to probably around like 90 degrees, you're going to want to add a little shade cover to it. You got to leave headroom though. So if your moringa, top of your moringa trees here, you don't want your shade cloth right here. You want it a little bit above so you get some airflow, okay? Otherwise the top's going to cook. Moringas do grow very fast. but they are very lanky. So don't think you're going to put one in and you're going to have this massive canopy and shade. It's not going to happen. Okay. All right. As you can see, this is a branch that I cut off, but these are the little leaves. Okay. It's starting to wilt because it's been on the ground for about half hour now, but these are the little leaves. This is all it's going to put out. They come out on these stalks. So until this tree is maybe 5 to 10 years old, it's not going to produce that much shade. As you can see behind me, they grow very lanky, very tall, very quick. The branches are very prone to snapping. Like I said, if you leave pods on these things, the branches will hang down and they will snap. Okay, so try to thin out your crop. I'm going to show you in a few minutes. I just trimmed this thing. All the branches were hanging down and I got a wall. Well, side of my house I got a little ledge on, so I got this whole wall full of piles of moringa pods. Like I said, I can't get rid of them, so I'm going to save some, maybe freeze some. The rest are probably going to go in the compost bin and turn into food for the plants. Highly nutritious food. Okay, so let's talk about once your tree is about 1 year to 2 years old, it's going to look pretty similar to mine. You know, they get in the first year it'll probably get about I don't know, I would say somewhere around 6 to 8 feet in the first year if you grow it right. Second year, it's probably going to be anywhere from 10 to 20 feet tall. They do get very tall very quick. It's recommended to top them. So you get the main runner coming up, the main trunk, you follow it up and snip that sucker off, and it's going to put out 2 or 3 more branches from that spot. So that way you get more of a bushy, lower tree as opposed to a telephone pole sticking straight out of the ground going 50 feet into the air and being useless for you. Okay, so frost protection. If you get a pretty heavy frost or freeze, the tips of your branch, all your leaves are going to die. Pods are probably going to die, but all the tips of your branches are probably going to die back. Okay, they might die back to the main trunk. Depending on how cold it gets, it could kill your whole tree. So in the winter, if you do get tip dieback, you could always trim it. And in the spring, it will come back, no problem. If the main trunk freezes, tree's cooked, guys. You might be able to trim it down pretty close to the ground, like 2 or 3 feet from the ground. Saw it off, and it'll probably grow out of there. More bushy, of course. It may not. I'm not guaranteeing anything there. So I would plant it in an area that stays a little bit warmer, like this side of my house. I got the house behind you. I got all this crushed rock in the common area next to me. So even in the winter, this area stays pretty warm. I haven't had any frost damage on this tree. I haven't had any frost damage on really any of my moringas in the yard, as opposed to some other very sensitive tropicals. But yeah, the moringa is pretty bulletproof when it comes to frost. You know, if you're out of town a little ways, you might get more frost, more colder temperatures. But, you know, you're just going to have to plan accordingly. All right, guys. So back to watering. I was mentioning that earlier. Like I said, this tree has been in the ground now 2 years. I don't do any deep watering. As you know, I do not drip irrigate. This area of my house, it used to be a lawn, so I have a sprinkler system. And these guys get water, I think 2 or 3 times a day for like 5 minutes. And I also go in here and I hand water all my plants at the end of the day just to make sure they're not dry. And then once a week I go through with a sprinkler and water for anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. Really low, really slow, just to make sure the ground stays nice and saturated and it doesn't dry out. I don't want salt buildup, and I don't want my alkalinity going through the roof because I'm letting the soil dry out. Don't let the soil dry out, guys. So like I said, you're going to read a lot that these things are drought tolerant. They are drought tolerant, but remember, drought tolerant doesn't mean they thrive in drought, okay? Nothing does, not even cactuses, okay? If you give a cactus water, it's going to thrive. If you let it sit, you know, in our native climate, in our native clay soil, and it doesn't get water, because, you know, we don't get water sometimes for 4, 6, 8 months in a row. Even a cactus is not going to grow. It's just going to sit there, okay? It's surviving, but it's not thriving. If you added water to it, mulch and everything, that cactus is going to get very big very quick. All right. So same thing with Moringa. If you do not water it, it may die. If you don't water it, well, it's probably going to die. I should say that, especially when it's young. But if you don't water it, it's going to grow very slow. If it is not mulched, it's going to grow very slow. If the soil is not amended, it is going to grow very slow compared to if you water it, you got a good watering schedule, you mulch it, and you amend the soil that you planted in. It's going to grow a lot faster for you. It's going to produce a lot heavier, and it's just going to do a lot better. So after a couple of years, like let's say 5 years, you have your Moringa tree in the ground, you can taper off on the watering, okay? Your tree's established, you got the canopy, it's producing pods, more pods than you could deal with. So guys, these trees, the pods will dry out on the tree, and you could harvest the seeds. You could also take the green pods if they're fat enough and starting to get little brown streaks in them. You could take those, let those dry out, and you can harvest the seeds out of those too after they dry out. Just crack open the pods, put them in a Ziploc bag, keep them inside. You don't have to keep them in the fridge or anything like that. I've stored some for a year, and I was giving them away to people, people that bought plants from me or friends or whatever. And a lot of people were like, "What? These things aren't growing." I'm like, "Well, all right." So I threw a whole bunch of seeds, probably a few hundred, in a bin, and put them out in the backyard a couple of months ago, and they grew no problem. So I guess it's all on how you grow the seeds. But I had no problem growing them. So, you know, I have a ton of Moringa plants. I have some for sale. If you guys are interested, they're about a year old. You can plant them. They're ready to be planted in the ground. They're not very big. They're maybe a foot to a foot and a half tall. But there's big competition selling these things. People sell them for dirt cheap. People sell them real expensive. I sell mine for $10. You know, a lot of times when people come and buy plants, I usually say, "Hey, you got a Moringa? You want one?" And I give them away because I got so many of them. They're super easy to grow. If you have a heavily mulched area and these Moringa pods crack open on the tree and they're dry, the seeds hit the ground, if you keep your ground moist like I do, you might have Moringa trees popping up all over. But if you don't want it growing there, you can either dig it up and pot it up and give it away, sell it, whatever, or plant it somewhere else in your yard, or you could just go over and snap the stem off at the ground and it's dead. They're not going to regrow. You know, it's not a nuisance tree here, all right? It's not tropical, so they're just not going to grow like that here, all right? So it shouldn't be an issue for you guys. But like I said, they are a fast-growing tree, lanky tree, so again, it's not going to produce the kind of shade you want for a couple of years. If you grow a whole bunch of them together and trim up the bases of them, you could probably get a pretty good canopy going and use that for starting other tropicals underneath. It's, like I said, very dappled light. So there's just a lot of uses for this tree. I'd highly recommend growing it. I have a ton of pods, guys. I always have pods. I'll put a copy of my plant care grow guide in the bottom. At the bottom of that plant care grow guide, it has my contact information. If you're local, you can look on OfferUp or Craigslist. Just search edibles and exotics, and my listings will pop up. You can get in contact with me that way. Like I said, I have so many of these damn pods. I got so many of these trees growing on my property that I usually give the pods away. I'll give seeds away. Sometimes I'll give plants away. If you buy other plants from me, I sell them. If you're just interested in that particular tree, you could buy that particular tree for $10, no problem. But if you guys are like, "Hey, Moringa, I want to try it," you know, you can come down. I'll give you some pods. I won't charge you for it. You can take them home. You can cook them. Totally cool with that. If you want to taste some leaves, some flowers, whatever, just get in contact with me. My plant care grow guide, it's free to download, share, view, whatever you want to do, print it out. I don't care. I'm going to be adding to it as time goes on, but it basically covers everything in my How to Grow Tropicals video series. So that more or less sums up my video series. So complements both. It'll really help you guys out if you're trying to grow tropicals. But keep in mind, Moringa trees, they do not like low temperatures. They don't mind the heat so much. Like I said, this one here, it's growing in pretty much full sun almost all day, you know, depending on where the shadow of the roof lands on it. But usually from about like 9-10 o'clock on, it's in full sun all the way down to the base. So shouldn't be a problem with that. But young trees, you will have to shade protect for a little bit, frost protect for a little bit too. This one here, like I said, I think it's been on the ground like 2 years now from seed, and I don't shade protect, I don't frost protect. I just mulch, water, compost in place, done deal. All right. As far as soil alkalinity goes, they can go a little bit above neutral, so a little bit above 7, probably like 8.5, and they'll still be okay. If you can get your pH down in your soil from, I would say 7 to like 6, they'll probably do a lot better. They don't require a lot of fertilizer. I would say, in all honesty, they probably don't require any fertilizer. They just grow. I haven't tried fertilizing them, to be honest, so I don't know if they are nitrogen sensitive. They may burn. That's something you guys are going to have to give a try yourselves. Like I said, I don't really fertilize my yard. I fertilize my potted plants, but even my moringa that I have growing in containers, those are grown in Stay Green potting soil, which has slow release fertilizer in it already, and I mulch the tops of those usually with sugarcane mulch. So they're getting a constant supply of nutrients. And I don't really, like I say, fertilize this tree or the other moringa in my yard. I just let them do their thing. I really don't care. They're so cheap and easy to grow. If something happens, whatever, I'll cut it down. I don't care. I'll plant something else there, plant another moringa, it doesn't matter. So if you guys want to start growing moringa, that's the other cool thing. Like I said, with the seed pods, they put out, you know, every couple of months, you're going to wind up getting hundreds of pods. You could cook them and eat them. You could eat them when they're young without cooking them. You could let them dry on the tree and harvest the seeds and grow them, plant them around your yard, give them away, sell them, whatever you want to do. The green pods, like I said, you can let those dry out. Once they start getting those streaks of green, those seeds are mature. You can let the pods dry out off the vine or off the tree in the shade or in the sun, whatever. And then it usually takes a couple of weeks, depending on the temperature, and crack them open, harvest the seeds. So that's pretty much it on moringa, guys. Like I said, I'm going to put a link down in the description on how to cook them. And if you have any questions on moringa, get in touch with me through my contact information on the Plant Care Grow Guide or my listings on Craigslist or OfferUp for moringa trees. So I'm not going to go super into depth with this plant, but I hope that clears up a little bit for you guys on growing moringa. I would suggest if you're buying a moringa tree, do not buy a mature one in a pot. Go for a little baby one. They're dirt cheap. They grow super quick. If you can grow them from seed, that'd be the cheapest way. Like I said, I usually give seeds away. I know a lot of other people do. If you see a moringa growing somewhere, you know, if it's in a public area, pick a pod off. If it's at someone's house, maybe knock on the door and ask them, hey, could I have a pod? And, you know, each pod probably has about anywhere from 10 to 20 seeds in them. So, you know, it's quite a bit of moringa trees, quite a bit of safeguarding against failure too when it comes to not growing them right from seed. So I'm going to show you this tree behind me. It's been in the ground 2 years, and the branches were hanging down, so I had to go through and trim it. So I'm going to show you the harvest I got off of it. There's still some up top, so I'm going to have to get up there with the pole trimmer and trim it off. So let's get in there, and I'll show you exactly what the tree looks like. I got a mango next to it right here, and then I got a red rover passion fruit climbing up it. I just did some pod trimming and don't want the branches to hang down over the common area over here because the landscapers will come through and butcher the tree. And I'm trying to grow this for shade and food. So you can see my fig over there. It is actually growing over the common area. This is the common area. This is my yard. So they're probably going to come in and butcher this. So see if I can beat them to it. But this guy, I've already trimmed him. it was hanging down pretty far. I mean, these branches were almost touching the ground. They get pretty weighted down from these pods. But if I zoom in up here, you can see there's still some pods up there. So I'm gonna have to get up there with the pole trimmer because getting there on the ladder is a little shaky. But basically, I compost in place, guys. So any of these smaller pods, I just throw them on the ground. I don't care. I got some guavas in there and stuff, and apple cores and banana peels. It is what it is. But it's starting to look ratty, as you can see, because it just doesn't have enough energy to grow pods and leaves. So I'm gonna trim these pods off. There you go. All right, guys, so here's another moringa tree, and you can see the billions of pods. I probably have more pods on this tree than I did on the other one. And as you can see, these branches, they wind up dying sometimes when they get pods, too many pods. So get rid of that, chop and drop. We're gonna trim this one up. Probably gonna leave the pods on this for a little bit. So in case anyone wants fresh pods, they can come get them. Right here is a bin of moringa seeds that I started. All right, just a tiny little Dollar Tree bin with some Stay Green potting mix. So I think this bin was started maybe like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago from seed, and that's the kind of growth you're getting. And let me see if I can get in here. Okay, yeah, you can see the stems don't have any bark yet on them, so they could stay in this bin a little bit longer. They're probably, some of them might be about 10, 12 inches tall. Over here, I have, this is what I have left moringa wise. These guys are about probably a year old. They're in, I think 12-inch nursery bags, which aren't the best for growing trees, but these moringas don't seem to mind it too much. Last winter, this area was unprotected. We got a little bit of unexpected frost, and they actually died back. So, like this one here, this is the original trunk here. All right, I had it taped and staked, and it died. Well, guess what? It put out 2 trunks, so it's now a 2-trunk tree. Kind of cool, right? But yeah, they just grow. They kind of hang and weep, and these are the ones I usually either give away or sell for 10 bucks if someone really wants one. All right, here's another moringa tree. This is the same age as the other 2, and oh, the sun's going to be in the shot, guys. Sorry, I'm going to try to move over here, but as you can see, it's got some pods. This one needs to be trimmed up too. You can see how it's hanging into the neighbor's yard. I don't want that. So I wanted to shade this banana when it gets a little older, but it's starting to get flowers on it. So these are the flowers, guys. Bees love the flowers. They're excellent for pollinators. They attract bees, hummingbirds, but these are the flowers before they open. These are edible. So you can pick one of these off, pop it in your mouth, use it for seasoning, cooking, whatever. These open flowers, same thing. You could eat them. Just got to watch out for bees and bugs in them. But you could also cook with them. They make an excellent seasoning. And I don't have baby pods. Right now, they're all kind of at the stage of either mature pods or starting to mature. But, oh, actually, here's one up here. Let me get you up there. So this little pod right here, hope you can see through the leaves and stuff, but that one you can actually eat right off the tree. Here's another one. That one you could actually eat right off the tree. You don't have to cook it or anything. The skin should be soft enough to where you could just eat it. And then I'm going to throw in a little banana update here too. So these are my bananas going, Blue Java bananas. They're starting to plump up. They're not so square no more. And hopefully these guys will be ready in another month and a half, 2 months to pick and eat. Here's the flower hanging down. It's still putting out male flowers. Oop, there you go. Right there, some male flowers. So that's going to conclude this video, guys. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, hit the bell, tell all your friends. And until the next video, guys, keep growing.